I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
We are AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we are watching Steins Season 1, Episode 6. Last episode, we ended off on a rooftop.
It's a very scenic, lovely view place to leave off.
We're going forward with the phone microwave, and we are going to try to beat CERN to a functional time machine without any risk of gooey people.
Or gooey bananas.
And we were told a little bit about time control and its destruction of history last episode. And my highlight was a little peek behind the curtain of Suzuha and what that character seems to be all about. I loved it last episode when we got to see the serious face of her, and I wonder if we're ever going to see her in action, I guess.
Her reaction to the helicopter.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things last
Bombings.
episode. We were really excited to talk and think about Suzuha after last episode.
Yeah, it seems like every episode so far is just turning up the notch a little more and a little more of tenseness.
I agree with that.
And it's awesome, and I'm just excited to get into it.
Let's go one notch further.
Yeah, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Okay. That's weird. Oh no.
All of her text messages were reply,
Yeah.
as if
It's
she's
one thread.
writing to herself.
Moeka, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know she's been texting Kiyoma.
Yeah. But we also know that she takes pictures of everything so that she remembers.
Yeah. Oh boy. What? Best entrance ever.
The Swiss bank came through. Looks kind of maybe not sad, worried.
She's trying to remind herself that this Kurisu is a different person with different knowledge. I wish we had a round table. Stupid rectangles. Love it. Oh yes! Code names for everything.
And then we can start.
No!
Maybe even say subject to change.
Let's hear it. See, that's great.
Where's the applause?
Taru. He's not wrong. That's why I like it. All Back to the Future.
Name subject to change.
Yeah. Hey man, it doesn't hurt to keep the constants the same.
Aww.
All right. Okay. All right. Gel Banana's back. 5 days ago. Interesting.
Which has happened before. Because Dario said that the message about Kursu was broken into two.
Is it like the Kerr black hole thing? Like it won't fit, so it has to split itself into two parts? It's...
He finally put them together.
There's no coincidence that the satellite was 5 days ago too, right?
Jello? Are we gonna try putting gel in...
Reverse it, right?
Reverse it, turn it into a banana. Oh.
We were way too optimistic. I like the motion blur on her finger to show how quick she was typing. Oh no.
In the past?
No. In the future.
These are more than vibrations.
Oh.
Moika.
D メールの法則についても大体分かったからいいけど、1秒が現実の1時間に相当する。
Okay.
120秒で5日。のはすごくね。だが遅れる文字数は英文で最大30。のとかたくさんは遅れないんだね。あ、そのカーブブラックホールが。
Kerr.
ブラックホールね。そのブラックがきついんだよ。マイシアン、今の言葉もう一度穴のところから。やめろ。10年8月2日は人類史にとって永遠に記憶ないガジェット研究所は。人類史上初のタイムマシン成功したからである。初じゃなくね。セルに先越されてたし。そもそも開発こいつも俺の堂々たる宣言に敬意すら払わんと。実験がうまくいってよかったね。
No. Reminding us serious it is, you know.
Especially with Mayuri.
Yeah. Now the stars, right? They're always there. What? That was the same effect with her finger, and I don't...
業以外だ。ダメかな。運ぶのを手伝ってくれる。一時的に借りただけだ。使い終わったら元の所有者に返すことになる。
所有者って。
柳林神社だ。グモルゲン。
So much German influence.
昨日は紹介していなかったな。
タイムマシンのことで一つ思いついたんだが。
Everyone's laying it on thick.
通話中に
She kind of reminds me of Suzuha at the moment.
全てを話そう。秘密を知られたからには仕方がない。おえか、貴様は今日からラバメンナンバー00。
Okay, that was Steins Gate, season 1, episode 6. One of my favorite episodes so far, easily. We were given a bit of information, and I want to pull up this scene that I felt like could easily go unnoticed, which was after Suzuha told, informed the gang about their issues upstairs in the apartment and the rumblings.
Yeah, the rent.
Yeah.
Being
And then
up.
Kurisu has a line, like, because she's been, working on the time machine, and says, I sent you a message. Did you see it? Of course not. I warned you 5 days ago. Like, do you think that that's like the start, right? It's the same day that the satellite fell. And that seemed to be, like, we seem to be shown the different variations of world lines at that moment that did and did not involve Kurisu, and whether or not she died.
Now it's like I want to go back to episode 1 again, because it's like when he gets that text message and he looks at his phone and we see like what day it was. Now I'm like, wait, what did that text message say? And remember, it went all like fuzzy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know. Is that connected? Is that being warned about the satellite falling 5 days ago?
I don't know.
Because I'm sure she would have chosen a landmark event to text about. That makes sense with her scientific brain to pick a scientific event to kind of text about.
Yeah.
In this time travel scenario.
Good question. I don't even know if we got to see much like content of what like the phone, showed in terms of like
I don't know if we even saw like a text message.
I'm pretty sure we got like a date, right?
Yeah, we got like we got date and time, and then I think it went fuzzy. So I don't think we actually got like a substance to the text message. It went really quickly. Are the subtitles on?
Yeah. I didn't even see anything,
Yeah. It does make you wonder if that was supposed to no subject. I am attachment. Is that like a video attachment, a picture attachment?
Maybe. But that's not a warning,
Right.
Didn't she say, what were you trying to warn me about to Ocarine?
To him, but that was in person.
Yeah.
I thought.
I
thought she said
no,
that
it
she had
was.
seen him in person and he had tried to warn her.
But it's interesting, And then, okay, the subtitles get it wrong here, because I wrote it in my notes wrong, but it was... Okay, so...
The sender?
Yeah. It's JTK 93X29. And the date for that, just so I have it, 2010 07 28, which is 5 days after the 23rd, right?
Right, and we're given in this episode, I think we're given like multiple times a black screen with what day it is.
Yeah.
And I think even what time. But it always goes so quick. That's something that this show does, is they like show a screen, something on the screen for 1 second. And then it's gone.
Yeah.
It just flashes by you.
To defend myself. See, it says 92X29 there. Right?
Typo.
Ridiculous. Unbelievable.
How dare.
Unwatchable. Super interesting, though. that is a through point. The next thing I really want to do is write down and try to understand what the timestamps were at the beginning and end of the episode.
Oh, okay. So we were on that scene and with Kurisu, when we walk in and she is doing the experiments. I had actually written something down for that scene, so I just wanted to say it since we had just talked about the scene. I wrote down that she had the lab coat on. And there's something about it that I felt was really meant more, and I think it meant something. So she's obviously excitedly and or just really thoroughly doing these experiments. She figures out how it works on the whiteboard, and she puts the lab coat on.
Yeah.
And every other scene that we see her is like, oh, this fourth member of the lab, she still has her kind of like sweatshirt on.
Yeah.
But there was something about the fact that this character took this seriously enough to put on the lab coat and actually be the assistant of the lab.
It's like there's a little more breaking through of the, like, oh no, I'm not part of this. It's like she's genuinely taking further steps into the family, into the round table, right?
And like wanting to, I mean, she even kind of has it off of her shoulders a little bit, which fits with her character.
Yeah.
But there's a level of just showing that she is actually in this and like excited about discovering it, when before she was like so against the idea of time travel. It's like now she's been given enough crazy evidence to push her toward actually working on this and trying to figure it out and see if it actually can work.
Yeah.
And I think that her having the lab coat on and actually doing experiments while he's not there and trying to figure it out herself is pretty awesome for her character.
I agree. I like seeing her. It's interesting, though, because even though I'm enjoying watching her become more of the group, right, and open up a little bit, I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, but what's the point that she learns information that causes a character like Suzuha to look at her a different way? I understand, especially for going with the idea that Suzuha is from the future and has never met Kurisu before and is only operating off of history and information given to her, then what she does could be 10 years from now,
right,
like in this show that changes like her opinion, right, or her character. So it's kind of silly that I'm looking like, oh my god, is this the moment that she learns? Because it's probably something bigger and more substantial. But it's interesting because Kurisu's a great character.
My issue is that I have seen no evidence that Kurisu would do anything that would make another character harbor that much kind of wariness and or maybe even hatred toward her for a future action. Like, I've seen no evidence that this character would go down a path and do something so deplorable that an assassin warrior from the future would be like, I have my eyes on you.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Maybe it's because we haven't been given enough of kind of her morality or her goals and what it would actually do for her character if she realized that time travel was possible and she could unlock it. Maybe it's, I don't have enough evidence yet to see where Suzuha, like, what could be that worry.
Yeah.
So I do think that's an interesting thing to point out, that I haven't seen anything for Kurisu's character for me to believe that she could do something in the future that would be bad.
Yeah. I would imagine what she'd do, because like it's different definitions of bad too, right? Like what's bad to one
bad
person.
To who?
Yeah. But it's interesting that Suzuha was like, oh, is Kurisu up there working right now, right? Like, there has not been one moment, I believe, that Kiyoma has talked about the Kerr black hole, even when he's been in the room and the conversation, which kind of puts in the back of my head, like, okay, are they going to have two different methods of going forward with the phone microwave, right? And with D-mail.
You know, you're bringing up something. I think that it's also possible that they might be in an opposition to using human experiments. I think it's really possibly good to note that in this episode, Kiyoma's really struggling with this idea of involving people, especially involving people he cares about. And he knows it's inevitable that a human is going to have to take part in this experiment.
Yeah.
and he is worried about the people he cares about, and he doesn't even necessarily want to die himself, but maybe that's the line where they divert, is that Kurisu would be much more willing maybe to start human experiments sooner. Maybe she'd be completely against it, and Kiyoma thinks it's inevitable.
I am loving Kiyoma's character.
Mm-hmm.
I love when he gets it's interesting because I like when he gets serious, is what I was about to say, right? And but the only reason I like that so much is because of how much I like him when he's not serious. I love his character in every regard right now. And it's interesting that, it's specifically Mayuri, right? Obviously he cares about them all, but that's the image that he has in his head when he's thinking about what the outcome would be negatively to these people that he knows and loves.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
I think it's because there is an awareness that Mayuri is just kind of along for the ride and not necessarily super involved in this. Daru is involved. He has made the conscious decision to be an actual part of hacking and experimenting and creating and thinking in this lab. And Mayuri's just kind of there and along for the ride, a mascot, a hostage, whatever she might call it. And so she's not really dedicated to the cause.
Yeah.
So she's definitely hasn't signed up for the possibility of getting injured.
Yeah.
Or jellified by this time travel idea.
Yeah. So to get it out of the way, the timestamps in both instances, the first one that we see at the beginning of the episode tells us that it is the year 2010, August 2nd. The second tells us that it is the year 2010, August 3rd. A day is in between them. But what I am loving and what makes my mind go crazy is the inclusion of not only AD, right? But the inclusion of the milliseconds, because we were told in this episode, I could have written it down wrong, so we'll get there later in the discussion.
I think I might have written it down too.
But 120 seconds is 5 days.
Is 5 days,
and
yes.
each second equates to an hour, I believe, is what they said. And it's the timestamp thing opens up so many paths, because I'm like, okay, you're using a microwave, right? Mm-hmm. You're being very not specific in scientific terms, right? In scientific terms, you're being
Can you even do milliseconds on a microwave?
No, and but since milliseconds were included in this timestamp, I'm like, shit. Is that gonna be how precise we have to be to get this right? And then I'm like, shit, they included AD. Are we gonna go back to BC at some point? That would be so cool. If I got to see Mayuri Tutaru in front of a dinosaur, I might
What about FB? What if we get to whatever FB is?
I
don't know what FB is.
I want
what if FB is supposed to be
its own thing?
Its own thing.
We have BC, AD, and FB.
Future battles.
Facebook.
Before we get to Facebook,
yeah.
There's one world line where Facebook's created, and there's one. I don't even know what year Facebook was created, but I think it was before 2010.
But Dude, I love this show so much. I am adoring this show so far. So going forward after the whole meeting of the minds and the round
nostalgia
table,
drive,
which is great. Look, I would love a round table, but we don't have enough members of AutoSave to complete that round table to justify it.
All of our pets could sit at the round table.
Or just a really small round table, and then it would fit us, you know?
Just a little tiny table, a little coffee table.
2 round tables. I don't know.
Oh, each have our own. So that
still
means we can
it's not as cool.
King Arthur.
You don't see King Arthur and his knights with each individual round table in front of them.
I wish.
It's when COVID hit, it's you have to social distance.
And they're all 6 feet apart with their own little round tables.
But I actually really liked the term nostalgia drive.
I know. I was so shocked that they were all like, no, it's too difficult, it's too long. I was like, I don't know, it's pretty catchy.
Yeah. Do you think that
DeLorean drive.
Do you so D-mail, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that there is any importance on it taking place in between the hours of 12 to 1 and then 6 p.m. like doing these experiments like Kiyomo was saying?
Well, it makes sense to me for the point of experimenting and having a hypothesis to kind of start with there being a lot of rules and consistency at first.
Yeah.
And then expanding on that, maybe testing, try it at a different time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it necessarily needs to be in that time. There's nothing, I haven't found any evidence in this episode to, like, tell me why
Yeah.
it would be those times and why those times would be the only times to work.
So
So I'm gonna go with maybe it's just the fact that those times worked previously, and that's how you would work in an experiment. Is
Yeah.
you would try that again.
Well, it's interesting because it seems like it's within an hour increment, and whether it's not important, like to if it like factually affects the experiment, what it does tell me is that perhaps everything that we've gotten so far in the timey-wimey text message sense, like from episode 1, has been like curated and done by Kiyomo. Like in the first episode, we got a text at 6:38 p.m. That's within the hour of 6 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
We have 12 p.m., 12 p.m. We have 12:56 p.m. We have 12:26. Like
He also just seems like the type that he would just want to stick with that.
yeah, but it definitely lends itself to like, okay, we can like tie that back to Kiyomo since he's narrated those times for us.
I think that it could fit his character that even if he learned that he could do it at other times, he'd want to stick to specific times as like a code against the organization or something.
Okay, do you think that we're ever actually going to see time travel in the form of a person?
Like in this show?
Yeah, because it's like in everything that fiction and writing has taught me, the gun is on the shelf that we need to see it. We have seen jelly-manned humans, so therefore we are going to see it be successful.
Okay.
But at the same time, like them
Is that
putting
the plot? Is that the point?
But then at the same time, the like importance put on the idea of text messages and phones is so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like it
especially with Moeko's character having a really heavy presence in this episode.
Yeah, like I wonder if it's just easier, right? At one point, dude,
It's safer. It's not even just easier. It's
well, I meant like
safer.
if it does exist at one point down the line, would it be just more of a risk and less consistent, and therefore like less easy to do? But at one point this episode, I was thinking that Moeko couldn't even be seen by anybody but Ocarine. Yeah, by Kiyomo. And then Daru saw her, and I was like, okay, there you go. That makes a little more sense. Because I was like, what if somehow Kiyomo was able to see her, and that's her main reason for wanting to text, because it is harder to do to vocally,
Can we
converse over time. I don't know.
I don't know a lot of like time travel terms, but I think this episode title had a time travel term that I don't know what that is. So
I'm gonna look like an idiot. Okay,
we could look up a definition or something, but I would like to know what that is so that I can apply it to this episode.
Yeah.
But since I don't know, I'm like, butterflies?
So looking it up wouldn't be a spoiler, right?
I mean, is it a scientific kind of time travel term?
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm gonna try to broadly speak out my butt with it, and then I will Google it and read that out loud so you and I can both try to understand. So if you go back in time and remove one piece or blade of grass, that one blade of grass, in theory, has the potential to affect something in its own lifetime that could change its world around it.
Okay, so like why you wouldn't go back in time, and like they always say, don't talk to yourself in the past or something.
Sure, that's an extreme example, but with the blade of the grass example, it would only be affecting, in theory, its surroundings, right? Just because it would theoretically be pretty unlikely that if you took one blade of grass out of a timeline, that would change the entire world. But if you ramped those stakes up to removing a person or interacting with people in a different way, then those consequences could result in a more drastic in
Right.
our terms, you know.
I mean,
And-
removing that one butterfly would definitely change the local ecosystem,
Yeah.
you know? And so
Potentially.
then possibly taking one person out could change that society, that local surroundings.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
at risk of looking too much into it, I'm gonna just go off of Wikipedia.
Wikipedia!
In chaos theory,
Oh god, I don't
the
even know what that
butterfly
is.
effect is the sensitive dependence on initial conditions in which a small change in one state of a deterministic nonlinear system can result in a large differences in a later state.
So basically, tiny thing could become big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Later. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Like caterpillar into butterfly. Maybe that's what they're trying to say.
But regardless, it's interesting that that's if I had to make a guess on like what's the butterfly effect here, it's the message that Kurisu sent Kyoma.
The warning.
Yeah, 5 days ago.
But it's like the episode title. So it needs to maybe be the most important thing that happened in this episode, the pinnacle thing. That you're right, that's a good kind of guess of what the thing is.
Yeah.
But I'm like so kind of Moeka's thing in this episode. I'm like, what is her deal? What is her part in this? Why is she so obsessed with retro PCs? As Kyoma was like, huh? As she was like peering over it and asking to take pictures.
It could
Is
be
there something with her, and that's because she was such
her
a
taking pictures of the IBN, her learning about the time machine
but it could be a trick.
Yeah.
Because Moeka's presence obviously took up more time than a text message, but the text message maybe meant more for the plot and the furthering of this time travel technology. So maybe Moeka is just a story, this little story device.
I would love to rewatch like the minute of like the best scene in this episode or series so far, which like blew me away. Like what's happening, you know, to Ocarine here.
Okay.
You know?
I think I'm wondering if I know what scene this is.
Yeah, you do. It's like intergalactic.
I don't want to guess it wrong, and then you were thinking of something totally different.
But it's prefaced by like Mayori, you know, putting the idea in Okarine's head of like what potentially would, like, you know, what's the outcome going to be, what the potential dangers are. And like, first of all, because I'm stupid, it is much harder for me to tell a voice actress if they are speaking in Japanese apart than it is in English. So I am unaware at the moment who is talking in this narration and if it's a character that we already know, and I am too stupid to be able to connect those dots. So apologies ahead of time. But without further ado, let's go. The music is so good.
I think it's Kurisu.
You're not moving. Time and space have changed places here.
So you don't move. Time moves around you when you time travel?
Maybe that's why...
Or maybe that's the trick?
Maybe that's why he's able to be like not affected in between world lines.
Because you're not forcing yourself through the Kerr black hole.
You're putting the Kerr black hole around you.
Or you're putting space through the Kerr black hole.
Yeah. You can't move through space. Time is extended forever. 1 second of your time will be an eternity for me. Well, so without being able to know who's talking right now, I'm like, is this some like godlike being that can like supersede time itself, like, you know, the constraints of that? Or it's Kurisu, and it's 1 second of your time will be while you're time traveling will be an eternity for us who are not time traveling.
Okay.
Like an eternity for me could definitely be seen as a person's lifespan, right? Mm-hmm. Like 1 second for you can easily span my lifetime and my ancestors ahead of it, because you're going to be traveling through all of that.
Yeah.
The end of space is running away. No, it's not. It's being extended. That's so interesting. I wonder if you God, I'm gonna sound like an idiot. But like if you extend it, then like you could maybe be more precise at where you land.
Maybe. There's like this whole scene when we first witnessed it. I felt like there's this like point before the breaking down of your brain where it turns into gel banana that you're like, whoa, I might understand it, but I also in like if I move a little bit too close to the edge could completely my brain will be fried.
Yeah.
And I feel like this whole moment I was like trying to keep my brain from being gel banana.
Yeah. You mustn't look back.
Don't look back at the past. Only try to look toward the future.
So like if you're traveling, if you are time traveling, right? I wonder if every time you look back could be a deviation of when you had like a butterfly effect on a different world line, you know? Potentially.
Or maybe it's one of those things where if you do look back, you'll disrupt the like what's happening right now of the time traveling, and then you could turn into a gel person. Like maybe you have to do it down to a like a real science of like you have to be exact when you enter a world line.
Yeah.
And you can't look back.
Eternity isn't infinite. The dialogue is so good in this show, man. Even if time extends toward eternity, an end still exists. That's so awesome. And at that end, maybe, what is him seeing the gel? Is that him seeing a potential like
end?
A potential? Is that him seeing the end, or is that him seeing like what could happen? What is this whole sequence? Like
and how and why is he having it right now?
Like it happened at the second he started thinking about what the repercussions could be for Maori and this whole idea. And then the next scene after this, I believe we wake up the next day. Like, is this
there.
Is this real? Did he experience this and then wake up the next day? Is this for us? Is this like what happened in between the days? Like, you know what I mean? Did real time actually pass and we just didn't see it on screen and this is like a dream that he had?
I think by how the scene ends with him waking up, I think we could go with this whole sequence being a dream.
When will it be 1 second later? Doesn't that like give you the impression that like from the earlier text, 1 second of your time would be an eternity for me. It's like 1 second of his time is also eternity for him. You know, like it's so wild. Look forward. Reach the end. You mustn't turn back.
Like he can't stop now that he's started discovering time travel.
Maybe. I like that.
Like now he has to beat CERN at their own game, basically.
Yeah.
And
do you like Moeka?
Yeah, and then the next thing we get is a persistent character, which is what Kiyoma needs to be, is persistent.
Yeah.
With those last pieces of dialogue of like, don't turn back, keep moving forward. Like, you need to have a persistence, even if you're scared. And then we get the most persistent character later, like 5 seconds later, as Moeka.
You know what's great? Like, for a character that isn't interacting with our own main character verbally or on screen a lot, there's so much of a relationship being developed between Moeka and Kiyoma. Like, it's just over text, and Moeka is so intrusive and so persistent that, like, this friendship barrier has been, like, shattered, and she is like...
she has inserted herself.
Yeah, I love it.
She's like, you said that I could come over.
Yeah. Amazing. I like her design, too.
I think her facial expressions and then where they draw her eyes to be looking during different times is a really great kind of glimpse at what she could be thinking.
So I'm probably going to concede that the way that she's moving and the way her finger was moving and texting earlier in the episode is probably just like a cool visual thing to show how
possibly
quick she is
comedic.
being. Yeah, and comedic. Rather than it being anything like timey-wimey. Even though, like, I definitely felt like that the first time through.
She's just a retro PC fan.
Yeah, let me take a picture.
That's the whole reason that she's here.
Why do you think she wants it?
I don't know. I don't think we got her answer at the end of the episode when he's like, I can't loan it to you, but how about you become lab member number 5?
Well, no, you're...
And so it's like, we don't get that she agrees to that.
Interesting, though. You skipped over something there.
I did.
That I would love to talk about.
Okay.
Like, the idea of her putting emphasis on the owner, like, question mark, like, when...
Who owned it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you borrowing it from?
Yeah, because when Kiyoma's like, I'm borrowing it myself, I have to return it to the owner. She's like, the owner? It brings us back to, obviously, who left it there in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who did?
Who did? Why is she looking for it?
Is she, like... My mind initially went to, is Moeka perplexed because she is aware that Kiyoma is the owner of it, but doesn't know he is, you know?
Ooh, I like that.
Why am I suddenly lending it to you? I'm glad that we got number 5. You know? And I'm glad that Daru got all of his treats.
Yeah, he got to buy some chocolates probably and some other good stuff other than bananas. When are we going to send something other than a banana through the phone microwave?
Is FB something we've heard before?
I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar, but it can't be FB.
Question mark.
Because he even's like FB question mark, but then he starts acting, you know? In his whole, I am a mad scientist and the organization.
And let's take into consideration what he is doing right now that led Moeka to that. Obviously, like the information about time travel, but he's also on the phone talking to talking about the organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't mail me
FB
while I'm
could
on
be
the
the
phone.
actual organization name.
Maybe like the inevitable organization or like the big bad.
I mean,
She's
she has
so
a very
serious.
serious look on her
God,
face.
I
I think
love her.
when we got it, I even said it reminded me of Suzuha.
It does, yeah.
That
yeah.
there's and then after he says, I'll tell you everything, but really, I think he should be asking her to tell him everything.
Yeah.
Because it seems like she definitely knows something. She has a motivation and she has prior knowledge, and gosh, I'm so interested in her character. I love the whole like text threads, and I almost feel like she is more comfortable texting so that she can guarantee that she's having the correct interactions at the correct times in the correct world lines with the correct Kiyoma.
Yeah.
Because if you're just talking to someone, and then what if you accidentally slipped up and said something that they don't know?
Mm-hmm.
And so she might just feel more secure in just keeping it male and
God,
not talking.
I'm so excited to like inevitably see who these people Suzuha and Moeka like are really, you know, and like just expanded
from.
characters. It's gonna be so great. I love the show.
Me too. Even though afterwards my brain kind of feels like
I'm trying to see if there was an after credit and not a preview. Sometimes it's hard to, you know.
We don't want it to be a preview.
Yeah, I don't either. Previews are dangerous.
Previews are dangerous.
But if it isn't an after credit, it might just be the end of the outro.
It's the end of the outro.
But it's somebody it's definitely Kurisu.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Weird. Okay. All right. That's all I have, you.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.